All right, guys, welcome back to Within Tolerance. This is episode 70 with Dylan and I. And I feel like, Dylan, we haven't talked in a while because last 2 weeks ago, we didn't do one. So what? It's been like a month or something?
Almost, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we spoke with Ashley last week, but we didn't really get to talk about our shops or anything. And I was gone the last time we were supposed to do one. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot has happened on your end. I know a lot's happened on my end. So I guess start off, what have you been working on the past couple weeks?
Um, well, let's see. We got to step back a month ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So first things first. I think last time we spoke, I had finished the titanium order. That's all done with. It went through EDM, dropped off to the customer. They're all happy with it. Lots of lessons and tools that I have learned to love now. So months ago, I had let everybody know about that GWS sale that was going on, and that's where I got the majority of the tooling for this run. It was all the 5 flute pistol 538s that I used for titanium, and they all lasted almost the entire way through the order. I had to replace one finisher. Uh, Held great size, great finishes, and for the money, man, I really lucked out there that they were doing that sale just as I got that order. And then I used that 7 flute rougher from Helical that I'd used on like the exhaust flange and some 303, and that thing ran through the entire order. At one point, when I was trying to save the ones that I broke drills off of in at least for setup parts. And at one point, I think I clipped a piece of a carbide drill with it, and it just kept trucking through the entire run still.
Nice.
So that thing's a freaking tank, and like super fast. Um, and yeah, it was a great experience. And then as I posted on my Instagram, I just got engaged to my girlfriend, and I made the ring that I proposed with out of titanium as well, because I was like, oh well, this went so well, I kind of want to play around more in it and really, see if this was a fluke or if I could like do some other complex shapes. And so that was same rougher, same drill that I used. Oh yeah, all Kennametal drills now are like my go-to for titanium. I couldn't believe how well they worked. That once I switched to that Kennametal drill for the tiny hole for the 256 thread mill, it lasted like all 200 holes in the bottom and then another 150 holes in the sides.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And that was just one drill. And I bought two because I was like, oh, I'll probably break one at least. But nope. Yeah, so the ring was super fun to make. It took forever because I used like a 1.5 thou step down with a 1/16 to do the top. And then I had a 20 thou thick full radius key seat cutter that I used to do the undercut portions.
Yep.
And so both of those were a 1 thou step down or 1.5 thou step down. And it was like, I don't know, an hour and 45 minutes for the entire ring. But then it broke off cleanly, and I just had like a very small nub to clean up with some sandpaper.
What was the like the tab you left? How thick was it?
So I think I had two tiny posts that were 8 thou on either
Okay.
side. But for some reason, not for some reason, because it was a full radius cutter, when I went in there to do the finish pass too, it left like a tiny film along the entire portion of the ring too.
Yeah, because I saw that in the video. It looked like where you're breaking it off.
Yeah, so I think there was like a 2 or 3 thou little film that either pushed off from the cutter or just like wasn't fully getting cut. And then two more or like thicker studs on either side that were, I can't remember if they were 5 or 8 thou, but something like that. But it was crazy just to break it off. And then the first ring that I made, so I made one earlier in the week, and I was like, oh, perfect. And as I was dialing in that cutoff operation, because the first time I did it, it didn't cut through enough that I could break it off. And then I kept, walking it in. And finally I had changed my lead in and lead out and just smoked the key seat cutter into the ring and like destroyed the key seat cutter, messed up the ring, and had to come back the next day and make a whole new one.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time. That was probably not ideal.
No, I mean, it was an expensive tool, and like I like I have caught myself and always try to run simulation. And like that night, I had run simulation like 4 or 5 times every time I reposted it. And of course, the last one that would have worked, except for my lead in and lead out, I didn't check the simulation and just ran the tool right into it.
That's all it takes.
Yep. So, yeah, that was fantastic though. So big lessons in titanium. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's actually kind of fun to machine once you get it. It's just slow. Um, and yeah, it was a blast. And like going on vacation was absolutely fantastic, and getting away from the shop. And she said yes, which was great. I mean, I was kind of not really expecting a no at this point. We've been dating for 10 years, but
That would be kind of awkward.
yeah. Well, and we still had like 8 hours of driving left too, so it would have made it
Oh
very
yeah.
awkward.
That'd be a long drive.
Yeah, but it was a great time, and like a fantastic trip. And just overall, like everything worked out, which was great.
How long was the trip?
Really, we had a week to do it, or a week and a half, but we ended up making it back from Iowa to Tucson in 4 days, I think.
Okay.
And we stayed in the Nebraska and Colorado border. We stayed in Aspen. We stayed in Kayenta, which is like a tiny town on the Arizona Utah border that's in the Navajo Nation. And then we stayed in, well, then we got back the last day. But we went to
Nice.
like Arches National Park, Grand Canyon, Monument Valley. Colorado was gorgeous. We got caught in a snowstorm going over the
Jeez.
Eisenhower Pass from Denver to Aspen. So it was the whole thing was fantastic. Car drove great, which is great too. And yeah, it was just fantastic. It was really, really cool.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, that's before my trip. That was all the lessons and stuff that I learned and all the fun that was going on. Afterwards, or 2 days ago, so we've got these bigger parts that I'm making right now. They're about 12 inches long. And so I need to hold them in two vices. And my two oranges in the brother now with the subplate don't line up. Like the hard jaws or the jaw carriers don't line up. And so I ended up having to drill and bore two new locating holes for the back fixed jaw, which was super, super nerve wracking because the last thing I wanted to do was scrap out a double station base,
Yeah.
but went super fantastic.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I drilled it with that same exact 11 millimeter drill from the titanium order
Of course.
because it was already in the machine. I was like, oh, screw it, and the best part is that drill went through all of the parts, then got dropped when Brad tried to remove it from the holder.
I remember you
Um,
telling me that.
yeah, like, well, because so I think just the Z load on the tool in the collet was so much that it locked it in the holder, and he ended up like having to bang it with a hammer and like all kinds of stuff to get it out. And then when it finally came out, it fell on the ground from tool bench height. And then I used it on both rings, and then I used it on the vise. And I was like, well, if it made it through titanium, it'll make it through cast iron. And
Yeah.
it drilled so silent, like it made a little chirp when it hit the spot, or I know I didn't spot. So when it made a little chirp when it hit the vise, and then it just was completely silent, drilling to depth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I drilled it. I then roughed it with that same 7 flute rougher because it was already in the machine,
Yep.
and then I bored it with the Mari tool boring head, which I now after using it for 2 jobs, it is fantastic. Like it goes exactly where you tell it to.
That's
Uh,
so awesome.
and it's like it's all in metric, which is probably the only downside. But for the money, I don't think I've used a better boring head for the money. Like it'll adjust 0.002 millimeters on the diameter, um, which is just insane. Like that's what 70 millionths on the
Yeah.
diameter, and so it goes exactly like I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll go 5 thou more, and it'll then I'll probe it, and it'll be exactly 5 thou bigger, and it just makes
Yeah.
it so easy to use.
Confidence level just went up.
Oh yeah, yeah. The only downside of that, and really, I need to leave a note for myself in the case, is I always forget if the dial is diameter or radial, and so
Okay,
like
yeah.
I always just assume it's radial because that's the safe way, but then I always have to dial it in twice. That means
Yeah. Yeah, make a note for sure.
yeah. But what I need to do is just print out. They have a PDF on their website of like which boring bar and which insert to use for which size hole. And it talks about, how to adjust it and how to lock it and all that stuff. I just need to print it out and laminate it, put it in the set, and then that'll be more than enough to remind me.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So yeah, I put the vise together yesterday. Fit is perfect. I then made some new not Talon, Sarah jaws, because I have a second set, and so I, cut some new stock and drilled and tapped it and all that stuff. So now I've got two sets that I can run in both vices next to each other. They line up, and I'll be able to cut that 12-inch part and use that new FCR face mill that Easton and I both got, and he's been using it in just like some insane feed rates. Like I am both excited and scared to use it.
Yeah.
Like it's I think he has the 1-inch, but I've got the 32 millimeter, and he's running it like 10K, 8 thou per tooth, 300 thou step down, and a 1/2-inch step over. So it's like 240 inches a minute or something like that.
Sounds about what I do with the shear hog. Just crazy,
Yeah. So
crazy fast.
it should be nuts.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask. So how off were your two vices?
Oh, they're like an inch off or something like that.
Oh really? Because it's the double station versus what, the single station?
Yeah, and then I even took off the double station and put on my other single station, but it's a custom single station that's
Yeah, the
shorter.
tiny one.
And
Yeah.
so those were also about an inch off because the pull stud locations are always centered to the center of the
Oh.
base. And so no matter where I was always just slightly off. And so I was like, screw it, I'll just indicate both vices in and drill and bore it. And like honestly, it went so easy. It has given me so much more confidence to just like modify work holding to make it suit my needs. Like I'm
Yeah.
much more inclined to do something like that in the future if I need to, rather than like freaking out. Because like I was telling Brad that same day, I was like, oh man, I guess we're just gonna have to buy another single station so we have vices that match. And then we did that, and I was like, or not, this is fine.
Yeah. Seriously.
um, so yeah, it was fantastic, and now it's dead nuts and works great.
Nice.
Yeah. And then let's see. Oh, more 3D printer upgrades. I printed a new fan duct. So now I have dual 5015 fans cooling the hot end, which has only increased the temperature I can print at and the speed at which I can print. I think I'm starting to get to the limits of like the belt and drive system where it's like, showing jittering and stuff, or not jittering, but like the corners are not as sharp as they should be on stuff if I print it really, really fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I think I have an E3D hot end from a old printer that I had, and I think I'm going to install that on the ender. I know a lot of people like the Micro Swiss, I think is the company that makes it. They make a drop-in a full metal hot end replacement for it, but it seems like the reviews are very mixed. Like some people are like, oh, it's too short, or there's clogging issues, or they don't use the right retainer for the Bowden tube, and so it like messes with your retracts. And so I think I'm just going to go E3D because that thing, is pretty much known as being like the bulletproof solution in the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of
Nice.
fun little things. And then right now, yeah, I've got that big part that I need to make in the next day or two and ship out, and then I've got a new customer that I'm doing a bunch of rush stuff for, which is great.
The rush.
Yep,
Always.
back to the rush, which that's okay. I think I've said this a few times now, but like that's, as much as it's stressful, that is also 100% like our key demographic. Like we're really
Yeah.
good at reacting quickly, getting tooling in, doing whatever it takes to get it done, and just shipping it out. So I guess I just need to accept my fate at this point and just
Yeah.
keep improving my workflow so that I'm not so stressed when I have to do that kind of stuff.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. My big thing now is like, I've got to find a new aluminum supplier, because like my
Okay.
one saleswoman that I think I've spoke about on the podcast before, she moved, and the new salesman that I dealt with this last week is like brain dead, and I never want to talk to him again. Like I sent him an RFQ, and he quoted every single piece wrong, like the wrong
Uh-huh.
dimensions. Like I was like, oh, I need, 5/8 material by 2.375 round bar. And he quoted me
Uh-huh.
2.735 round bar by 0.875 cuts or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's, I put the diameter symbol next to the one that's supposed to be the diameter. Like, what are you talking about? And it took I think 4 emails back and forth for me to get the right quote. And I was like, dude, my old saleswoman would get this right within 5 minutes. And it also took him half the day to respond
I
to
was
me.
about to say that probably took a whole day just to get an answer.
Yeah, yeah, it was insane. And so like I'm either gonna go over there next time I can and try to hunt out a salesman that looks like he knows what he's doing, or I'm just gonna find another supplier because I can't order it from Xometry or online metals because it's like overnight shipping charges are just way too much.
Yep.
But I can't deal with that again. Like it's just not worth my time.
Yeah, that's just a time sink.
Yeah. Like I was hoping this all happened last Friday and I was hoping to have material Friday night so I could start on this stuff. And instead we didn't get it until Monday because of him.
Yeah, that's
It's-
just not acceptable.
yeah. So, but really that's where I'm at. Like we pulled all of the vices off out of the deltas because I think I told you last time that we had to replace all the screws in our deltas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we finally did that because they were all stuck, like super stuck. Like you could pull the screw out, and then the little ball end that captures the pull stud was just like jammed up in there. And so it took some banging around with a hammer and finagling to get them all out, but got them all out. Got my tool setter recalibrated. Got all the vices back on there. The new screws that they're making in house are like way 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 better. Super easy to use and don't bind up at all. So that was a big project this last weekend, but we got it done.
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's about it. What about you? So you since we talked last, you had a big drop. It seems like you've just been slammed. So let's what's been going on in your world?
Yeah, I got to think back a couple weeks. Where was I a couple weeks ago? Um so yeah, I was like trying to restock as much as I can, upping my minimum of basically all the products that I restock. Instead of doing like, let's say 20 of one figure, I'm doing like 50 or 100. Um, and I know I've talked about it before, and some people have replied on the podcast and whatnot saying that's not lean and whatever, which I get, but there's so many variables to this. It's not like aluminum where it's like I can always go buy more. You know, some of these parts, the third party Lego market, let's say if you want a yellow minifigure head, it's like a stock market. Some days you can get 200 of them for 50 cents a piece. Some days they're $1 a piece because of just the way things fluctuate. So it's kind of hard to have set pricing and like, you know, one day they might be in Germany, one day you might be able to get them in the US. So it's like I feel like the most lean way to do it is to just up my quantities and hold a little more inventory. And from what I found is holding that little bit more of inventory has not been a problem because I'm like selling out of my restocks already. And I was hoping it would last through Black Friday, but I'm starting to panic right now because I don't know. The amount of orders I'm getting on a day to day basis is so high right now. It's like, if this keeps up for another month, I'm not going to have anything for Black Friday.
Well, I'm glad you were improving your shipping method then just before all this happened.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that is so nice because I don't think I've packed an order in the past, like probably since we last talked, 2 or 3 weeks.
So
And
let's
then,
recap what you've done so far. So you went from printing out and manually finding in each bin that were all stacked on top of each other what you needed, and then what
yep.
are you doing now that's different?
Okay, so a couple things. So for some of the smaller items, like the little injection molded like weapons and whatnot, and the accessories, those were in like fishing tackle bins, right? They just have like movable dividers. It's easy to organize. You can see everything, and they just have a lid that you open up and it hinges to the back. And I had probably 8 of these just stacked on a table, and me being me, I know where everything is. So if someone orders this, this, and this, I know, okay, I got to grab this bin, open it, grab it, close it, shift the bins around. Like, and it was just a lot of moving and it was just dumb. And so this was a while ago. I got a shelf. I opened up all these bins, took the lids off completely, laid out all the bins on the shelf. So now there's no more moving the bins around, trying to get to the bin that's on the bottom and moving all the ones on the top. And there's no more opening the lids and closing the lids. Everything's just like literally just grab and go. So that was a big deal. And then now I have all these bins in this little room I have, and they're all organized. They all have a bin number. So, 1 through, I think I have like 80 some bins. So they all have a bin number, and that corresponds to the SKU number on Shopify. So if they order, let's say, a World War II American soldier, it'll say bin 5. And so now if my mom helps me pack orders, it's just bin 5. You don't like anybody could pack orders is the whole goal here, right? No one needs to know where the product or what it looks like or what it is. It's just here's the location, just quantity 1, grab 1. And so pretty much now it's been a long process, and I don't know how to explain how many little things there are to this. Maybe it just shows how unorganized I was before, which is totally true. But it's all the little things. It's like, okay, this issue came up where it's like, my mom asked me, she's like, well, where is this? And I was like, oh, like, I know where that is, but of course you don't know where that is. Like, we need to fix that. And, it's just getting all these orders has actually been good to prove out the system, because it's now to the point where it's like, okay, now I have this product that's really complicated because there's like 25 variations of it. So how can I make that simple where I still don't have to be involved type thing?
Totally.
And so I would say literally today, I just reorganized everything. There's a couple more problems, and then all the new products got inventoried. Everything's just like perfect now. And I think I sent you the picture on Instagram. Now I moved my label printer there. I got just the old laptop I had for school, put it in there. So now I don't even print labels. I don't do anything.
That's awesome.
So shout out to my mom, who literally just comes up and is like, she knows how to use ShipStation now. She just like helps me with that. And while I'm printing or doing whatever, she can just come up. She knows how to print labels. She knows where everything is. And it's just like, I'm just not involved anymore.
That's fantastic.
But one problem I'm running into is, since I'm not directly involved with that, I'm just making the products. I'm realizing, I'm checking my phone. I'm like, wait, this product's out of stock? And I asked my mom, I'm like, have these been selling a lot? She's like, yeah, like we've been out of those for a while. And I was like, so since I'm not involved, like I'm not physically touching the product and looking in the bins anymore, like I don't pay attention to that anymore. So that's where I need to start looking into this, low inventory alert system, because
I was just about to give you shit for that.
yeah,
Buy
because
it.
I mean,
Buy it
it's
today.
yeah, I know, but it's totally, like this one product I had like 50 of a couple weeks ago, and now I'm like out, and I was just like, why is this out? Like this should never be out. Um, and so I had to order more parts for it today for restocks, but it's just like now it's coming full circle. Like now I understand, how can I keep that own system alive without being involved, as much as possible.
Yeah. No, you need to get that today,
Yeah.
especially if you're not involved in it anymore. That's like goal number one right there.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I'm gonna give you shit. I'm gonna push you on this one because you need to get that done.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. It's one of those things where it's like, literally today, it was the last couple products that I was like ironing out the kinks in, because I have this one product. It's a Lego RPG, right? And I have two versions. I have one with iron sights and I have one with a scope on it. Okay, for the actual like launching tube, and then I have 4 different rockets that go with it, and then I have 8 different colors for each of those. So there's like 50 some variations, right? And so how do I, when someone says I bought a overmolded scoped RPG with a slim rocket in pearl gold, how do you, how does my mom know what that is? I know what that is, but like that's just a mouthful. So that was kind of the last thing to dissect. And I got it. So
So is
that's
that on your
done.
label now? Like, does it say like bin blah 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 plus this, or
There's a whole tray that's just for these RPGs, and each one, I could post a picture. Each one has a card on the little like pocket on the tray, and it has a picture and then like a label of what it is.
nice? That's awesome.
So it's visual. The name matches what the invoice says, so it's like it should be foolproof.
That's badass. That's really cool, man. I'm pumped to hear that you're not packing orders.
Well, yeah, even my mom was saying like I got like 50 some orders, the other day, and like I was just like working and designing in Fusion, doing some new products and stuff, and she was packing orders in the background, and she came out and she was like, I didn't realize how long this takes and how much this is freeing you up. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's great.
Oh man, that's super cool. So,
Yeah, so
um, I figure we should mention on the podcast. Are there any within Tolerance podcast people left? Minifigs.
oh yeah, there's probably a handful left of those. I don't think I only posted it on my story. I should post it on my like profile. And then there's also I think two or three of the Grimsmo figures left, and those once they're gone, they're gone. And it'd be great if you guys buy those so I can have another bin open.
Well, I
So
got mine, and it is like super cool, and like I've never had anything from you that's UV printed, and
I was about to say,
it's so high quality. Like now I see what you're talking about. It feels like it actually has some texture to it,
yeah.
and it feels awesome.
Well, yeah. Now I don't advise this, but now try scratching it off, and you won't be able to. Like,
well, I did like put my fingernail to it just to see if it would lift at all, and it like no, it's on there.
oh yeah, no, it's there.
Yeah, that's it's super cool. It's a good addition to the Speedia for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a couple of those left. Yeah, I was telling Dylan because Dylan, I saw your order. That's all I saw, and then it got shipped out. And like I told Dylan, I'm like, yeah, I didn't even pack that order. Like
Yeah.
it's just gone.
Well, I didn't believe it because you got um like I ordered it and within like 3 hours it was like your order has been fulfilled and I was like yeah bullshit but then it showed up like a few days later I was like oh I guess it was.
Yeah, at BrickTactical, we don't mess around.
um oh so the question I had and I put it in there was how do you prep for a drop like the one you just did? Like what kind of do you schedule Instagram posts? What kind of advertising? How much like how do you anticipate stock levels that you need? How does that all go down? Like I'm sure I know we got a few questions about it and I told people that I was already going to ask about it, but like how do you as a business owner go about setting up for that? Because I know I saw a bunch of Instagram stuff. Like is that all scheduled? Is that are you actively doing that? How do you go about that? What's your process, or how much can you share, I guess?
I would say for the Instagram post, I mean, there's no real way that I know of that you can schedule an Instagram post. And I've looked into this and I've actually posted about it. And people said and I've seen there's third party apps that do it, but apparently Instagram doesn't like when you use them. And they actually like basically like put you down on the algorithm. So I was like, well, I don't want that. So but I kind of schedule in my head and I'm kind of like, okay, this morning I'll post this, then like throughout the day, always do that on the stories. And that's just kind of like, you just kind of got to build up that hype. Um, and I tried something different this go around, which normally I would just be like, let's say today I wanted to drop something. I would just be like, all right, guys, like new products up today. And it catches people off guard is kind of what I found. So this time like a week ahead I started posting like October 17th, October 17th, October 17th, like, and I kept like posting about that. And I think that gave people not only something to write down, but I would assume October 17th came around and they were like, wait, I remember like BrickTactical was doing something, like let me go check it out. At least I would hope that's what would happen. So
Yeah, well,
that
I mean, I was
is
watching,
something.
like, I kept seeing it in my stories and stuff while I was on vacation, and I was like, "Oh, man, I
Yeah.
wonder what he's releasing."
Yeah. So I think that's a good way to do it, is to, give them kind of a deadline of when stuff's going up. So I'm probably going to keep doing that. Um, as far as like inventory levels go, that's where it kind of goes back to like me upping my minimums, because this is all a constant experiment, and it just shows how, I mean, a year ago, if I made 100 figures, it might take me a couple years to sell, but now it's like that's going to last me a month or two. So it's this constant battle of experimenting, and then your business is growing, so you have to adapt to the growth. And, you know, like I said, I'm making 50 to 100 of some of these products, and they're selling out in weeks. And it's like, okay, now what? Like, what is the next step that's logical? Because I probably shouldn't make 500, but should I make 200? Should I make 300? Like, how many do I make? Um, because it's kind of goes back to what we read about in the book, The Goal, of like, reduce your costs, but then, how many setups do you want to do? Because depending on the setup, a UV printing setup can be just a total bitch. And it's like, I don't want to redo that. So let's just make a bunch of them right now.
Right.
And so I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel like I've been winging it this whole time, and it's just been working. Um, but I mean, with some of the new stuff, the new products, I knew they would be popular, and those new helmets that I got molded. I mean, I had plenty of those made. I think 60,000 total parts.
Holy
Um,
crap. Oh, and so we
and
can share that those are the parts that you made on your new mold, right?
yeah, so that mold showed up probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the story of that is, I don't know if I talked about, I think I did, yeah, because it was
Yeah.
like the day that I got it or
Yeah, because
something.
we
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 had a
talked
pod.
about you setting it up and then tearing it down and being like, "Nope, screw this. I'm gonna have my friend do it."
Yeah, so I got it, I cleaned it up, and I ran it, and I was like, I had a problem with it, and I was like, you know what? This is one thing that I always get asked is injection molded, is injection molding like a totally automated system? And some people say yes, some people say no. I'm kind of in the middle. It's kind of, where's your trust level? Because all of a sudden a part doesn't eject and that mold goes to close. Depending on the age of your machine, it might have sensors and force sensing to know that that part's still in there and stop. But if it doesn't, I mean, you can damage things really quickly. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I have so much printing to do. This was like a week leading up to it. I have so much printing and molding to do on other things. I'm just going to drive 3 hours, drop this mold off, have my buddy make 60,000 of these parts in like a week while I'm printing. Because when you're printing, the cycle times are so small. I mean, it's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, maybe. So there's not much walking away. And it was just a total no-brainer to get that many parts made for the price I paid for them, and still be able, it was just time delegation. I think it was the smartest decision.
Yeah, totally. And it seemed like your drop went well with it, so I think you've definitely made the right decision.
Yeah, I just got another box of them showed up today, of another like 30,000 of them or something crazy. It was like 20 pounds of these little parts. It's probably more than that.
Nice.
It's probably like 40 pounds or something, but yeah.
That's
And it's nice
fantastic.
that I'm reaching out to all these resellers that do, they're resellers in Sweden, UK, Japan, like all over the world, because people ask all the time, like, hey, I like the new stuff, but I don't want to pay the shipping price or wait that long. Do you have any resellers in my area? A lot of people in Europe. And I used to have a lot of resellers, but for whatever reason, I kind of stopped. I kind of liked just the model of direct to consumer. But I reached out to some of these old resellers, and a lot of them like the new stuff. And so now I'm getting all these bulk orders, and now it's like depleting my inventory even faster. And I'm like, I'm trying to weigh the, like, do I sell these products at in bulk to these guys at a discount, or do I say, wait till after Black Friday, then I'll sell you stuff? Because like, it's kind of like a catch 22. Do I rather just wait and the product would probably sell at full price? Um, or do I sell it now at a discount?
Right.
So I don't know. There's just I feel like the amount of Lego product that's moving right now is crazy for me.
That's awesome, man. So what about the machine? Are you machining anything? Making new molds or
I need to do this tonight. I need to have one mold that's like a 14-hour run that I need to do before I go to bed. Um, I did one half already. Oh yeah, that's something I can talk about. So my air compressor had a problem. So this was the last mold out of this release that I needed to finish. I did the first half and it was like 14 hours and I started it in the morning and went throughout my day, whatever. And then I went out and hung out with some friends late at night, right? And I come back at like 1 in the morning or whatever. And my machine's just idle because it stopped. And my air compressor's what I think is off. So I turn my mill off. I go over to my air compressor and it's not off. It's like dead. And I'm like, why is it like dead? The dryer was still running, but the actual air compressor, like, it was weird. It just wasn't off, but it was just completely dead. And I was like, did it trip a breaker? Blah blah blah. I did all that and I was like, I'll figure this out tomorrow. So thank you to Nick, entirely Crimson, because he has the same air compressor. Turns out I blew a fuse,
wait,
which I've
Nick?
never experienced.
Isn't that Austin?
Austin, Nick, am I getting?
Nick is full throttle, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I talked to both of them. We all have the same air compressor.
Oh, nice.
Um, but yeah, both of them helped me with that. And apparently, I blew a fuse, which I had to go to like a local electrical place, and they had to order it. Um, and it was just like a tiny little 1 amp fuse, and I put it in like a couple days later, and it seems to fix the problem. But it's kind of worrisome why that blew.
Yeah, that's a little strange. But it's been running
Yeah,
fine since, or
2,500 hours without a problem.
huh? That's so bizarre.
So yeah, I mean, I have no idea. That was just one of those weird things I was kind of like caught off guard with.
Yeah, that's really bizarre. But I'm glad but I'm glad it didn't blow the fuse or anything like that. So
Well, yeah, I haven't really ran it much since I replaced it, so we'll see.
yeah, I guess we'll find out
Um,
tonight then.
yeah, I bought like 5 extra fuses because they're only like $10.
Nice.
But um, yeah, that was just weird. So yeah, other than that, I haven't ran my machine in a while. It's been just like I don't even know what I've been doing. It's been like it's been like designing new products and just like enjoying watching a system work for once.
Nice. Have you been getting roasted by more 8-year-olds at the skate park?
No. See, I figured out their bedtime and I go after.
Oh man. Oh, that still makes me crack up. Oh,
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I did clean, like I have two garage bays or whatever, and I cleaned one, like a deep clean, and like it feels so nice. Like everything's put away. It was a mess before. And so now I got one more side to do where my mill is. It's total like bomb went off. And I just want to like clean it. It's just so nice to put everything where it needs to be. So I wanted to do that today, but I'll probably do that tomorrow.
nice. Yeah, deep cleans always feel good. Like you never want to do them, but then once you get them done, you're like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah, and then I was just like looking at some of the stuff I had. I'm like, why am I keeping this? Like, why? Like, just throw it away. Like, what are you doing? Or like, what is this unfinished project? Let's take the 20 minutes to finish it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So,
Well, that's
but
great.
yeah,
So what's going on for the next week?
let's
Just
see.
more sales?
There's one more, I would say, big project I'd like to get. I don't think it'll get done by the end of the year because I just looked and we've only got like 65 days or something left in the year. Like it's not that much.
Which is
Um,
insane. I feel
yeah,
like it was just January.
I feel like it was just like March. Yeah. Um, so I don't think this project will get done by then, but it's a big deal for me. It's a kind of a passion project that's been going on for a while, like 6 years or something. It's one of those long projects that you never finish, and I'm really trying to finish it. I don't want to talk about it, but it's a Lego gun that's like 15 pieces total. That's completely modular. I'm designing it completely, which it's really cool to be able to say that. Um, and then I have a mold that I want to make to prototype it. I need to run that too. Um, but this would be eventually turned into a full scale production mold, and getting prices for this part or multiple parts is kind of nerve wracking because it's like the current quotes I'm getting are like $12,000 for a mold, which it's like, oh
Ooh.
geez. Um, that's definitely going to be the most expensive mold I have ever owned.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so luckily I'm talking to a couple other Lego companies that would buy some in bulk, some of the products. And then one of them I might partner with to do some cool like exclusive figures that pair up with the accessories that this mold would make. Um, Not only to build hype, but to do kind of like a Kickstarter, but not a Kickstarter, like a pre-sale type thing.
Mhm.
Um, I really don't like the idea of doing any of that, but it would be nice to get like maybe $5,000 up front would be kind of nice.
Right. Yeah,
Just something.
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome, man.
either way it's gonna get done. So
That is very cool.
yeah. Yeah, what about you? Is anything, I mean, doing the rush jobs and
Yeah, just doing the rest jobs. I'm gonna try in the next couple weeks to get a new coolant pump ordered for the TC and like get that top for it finally designed because I really want to get that machine kind of squared away. But we've done some work on that recently. Like that thing, it may be old, but man, it just really kills it. And then another big project is we got to get that kitty cleaned up and sold.
yes,
We got the windows in just before I left for vacation. I feel like I just got something else for it. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, we're gonna get that thing cleaned up and get it the f out of our shop. I'm like so ready to
done
have
with
that
it.
space done. I was listening to the Bomb last week, and they were talking about Maker Pipe, which is like a connector system for conduit, so you can make like desks and custom furniture more or less out of it, or custom whatever you want. You should look into it actually for like bins. Like you can make a cool like inventory shelving system that would be perfectly custom to you.
Okay.
But I once I found it, I was like, oh man, I want to use this when we get the kitty out of there and redo the shop. I want to get make like our own benches and everything custom and bespoke to the Speedios and to our workflow. I think it would be really cool. And then I'm gonna start looking into. I really want to get a large granite surface plate.
Okay.
And then I think before the end of the year, we're either gonna get a bandsaw or possibly a height gauge. I need to
Okay.
see. I need to talk to my accountant and see, how much we should spend before the end of the year to take advantage of tax breaks and all that. Um, but yeah, the kitty will be the big thing. We just need to get that done. I'm
Oh yeah, speaking of taxes, I've never done this, but I'm just sent off a check for like $4,000 to like prepay some of my taxes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that should hopefully, it's just kind of nice to not to have as big of a hit all in one go.
Yeah, totally. We're just
So
gonna try to make enough purchases that we don't have to pay taxes. That's I'm gonna talk to my accountant here in the next week or so and be like, hey, we needed to have a meeting before the end of the year or like in November,
yeah.
so that I know how much we should buy pretty much because
I
like
need to look into that too cuz I don't really know how that works.
I don't know where the cutoff is, but like big purchases that are used in manufacturing, you could write off up to $250,000. I want to say it is.
Whoa. So you could like write off everything.
Yeah, like the Speedio last year was like a giant write off, and you can either depreciate it at a normal schedule over a certain number of years, or you
Yeah.
can, because it's manufacturing, you can do it accelerated depreciation and do it all in 1 year.
Might have to buy a couple more UV printers.
Right, exactly. So I would talk to somebody about it and find out. Like again, I don't know where the cutoff is, what kind of machinery qualifies.
And that's
Um,
just for manufacturing, though.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Interesting.
I can't. I'm like totally spacing on the section of the code that it's
Okay.
in right now, but yeah, if you look into it, um, it's called accelerated depreciation, and
Okay.
that's like why you see a whole bunch of sales of machine tools towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like that, they're discounting machines because they know that all these people are like, oh, well, I don't want to pay taxes, so I'll just buy another machine.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to think. I know what section it is. I just can't think of it either.
Yeah, it's literally like I was just talking to somebody about it a day or two ago, but anyway, like that I need to look into it because we really need a saw. Like I oh, that was the other thing I guess I can talk about. So after I destroyed those drills into those pieces, I needed to cut a few extras for that order that I just finished up, and I just used our cold cut saw with the aluminum blade that was in there. And like the first few pieces cut totally fine, and like I was still able to cut aluminum, but after 4 or 5 pieces through it, because I also cut the ring blanks on it, I took it out yesterday, and all of the teeth are rounded over, and just like I had to order a new blade. And so
Yeah.
after that, I was like, we really need a legitimate saw, like even if it's just a manually operated with a hydraulic feed. um it just needs to be done. And so I've been looking. There was one in town that like sort of looked okay, and then I talked to him more, and it turns out that it wasn't at all what he had said it was.
Yep.
um and so I'm on the hunt right now. There's a few that are out there. I can't remember the fabrication company off the top of my head right now, but they have one that's a few grand that looks really nice. Oh, it's section 179,
Yep. Okay.
by the way. So yeah, they section 179 limits for 2020 allow up to $1,040,000 in eligible equipment to be deducted, and a total equipment purchased by a business cannot exceed 2,590,000.
Huh.
Once the equipment purchases exceed that number, the deduction on a dollar for dollar basis reduces on a dollar for dollar basis.
So if I buy $100 CNC machine, the new Haas that's coming out, then I,
Yeah, $100 CNC machine.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then that just gets taken off my $200 that I owe in taxes.
but it has to be purchased and in service within your given tax year.
Yeah,
So
they're
like,
Amazon Prime.
yeah, yeah. So whatever I buy, I need to have on my shop floor operational by December 31st.
So it sounds like it has to be like equipment. It can't be like an end mill.
No, no, because that's cost of goods sold. That's not an
Yeah.
equipment purchase. But
Hmm.
like you said, a UV printer would totally qualify,
I could kind of go for a pad printer. That'd be kind of sick.
or it,
I
it
need to
should
look into
qualify.
that.
Yeah, again, I
Yeah.
talked to somebody who's like a hell of a lot more qualified to say anything than me, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just thinking out loud here.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Apparently, almost any business use vehicle will qualify as well. But
They aren't anymore. It has to be manufacturing business.
yeah, I think so.
Huh.
I'm actually, I don't know. It doesn't say manufacturing
Like, could
one.
a pie shop get a new oven?
Maybe, yeah.
You would
But
think so, right?
again, to
No one
everyone
listened to
listening,
us.
yeah, to everyone listening, go talk to somebody who actually knows what's going on. Not me.
There's one dude that's like, all right, Haas, let's see what you got.
Yeah. Where's my Haas oven?
Yeah. Haas microwave. Watch. You watch. I guarantee that's going to happen. Dishwashers and fridge.
Oh, so they say that vehicles only qualify if they exceed 6,000 pounds in gross vehicle weight. So like a heavy equipment is usually what it seems like.
The Haas truck. I want the whole Subway van.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to look into that more. But I would very much like to get some stuff for the shop instead of paying taxes.
Well, yeah, now thank goodness I haven't sent that check for prepay. I might hold off on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're both small shops, so there's always something to buy. I mean, I would never put myself into like serious debt to try to defray tax. Like you're gonna lose if you try to do that. But like
Yeah.
buying something that you need anyway, it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess there's that fine balance, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna spend $1 million to like not have to pay taxes on $50,000. You know, like that doesn't make any sense. But
I'm just trying to think in my case, I don't want to give out how much I paid last year in taxes, but like
too much.
if
I think we can all agree it was too much.
yeah, but like I'm just thinking like if I'm prepaying 4,000, which is just a chunk of what I paid last year, like if a pad printer is like $4,000, why wouldn't I just get that?
Right. If anything, it'll reduce how much taxes you have to pay.
And I guess the question is by how much?
Yeah. Well, again,
Yeah.
there are experts out there that you pay money to so that you
Yeah.
pay less money in the long run.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Let's
Interesting.
jump in on questions because we still have to talk about book club too.
Oh yeah.
So Lowry Racing asked, how's 75 hard going?
I'm still doing it. I've actually gotten better with kind of like, what do I want to say? I would say my day-to-day routine is more structured. Um, and I don't know if that's, I mean, I'm trying to think back to when I read the 75 hard book. I think that's also part of what this is trying to teach you as far as just like kind of get your whole day into shape, just kind of like get a structure, a routine down. Because
Mhm.
before it was all over the place. I mean, you know it. I talked about it, how I would do like 2 workouts simultaneously at like 2 in the morning. Like that was just not right. I think
Right.
everybody could agree to that. So now it's like I get up before I even check my phone, which for a lot of people this is hard to do, myself included. I pick up my book and I read 10 pages. Um, so like before I'm even looking at like a screen, I'm just like waking up, I'm like reading, which I think is really good.
Nice.
Um, and then this has been hard. I've been trying this though because I have 2 workouts. So one of them I just walk for like 3 miles. It's like just 15 minutes a mile. I just walk around the neighborhood, just kind of explore, and I try not to be on my phone. I just try to like think. Um, and then the other one's like a pretty difficult like core and like weights, like the whole 9 yards. And to be honest, I push myself so hard that I dread that workout a lot. Like I
Good.
just don't want to do it, but I do it. Um, which is what it's supposed to be like that, right? It's a workout. It's not supposed to be like have fun, whatever.
No.
Um, and so I've been trying to do the hard workout like right when I get up, which sucks. But a couple things you gain from that. One, then I know like around this time of the night, like I don't have to do a workout at like 8 o'clock, like my tough one. Like it's just like a relief. I can just like go on my walk and then be done. Um, and two, then I don't have to take a second shower, and that saves me time. So like that's 7 less showers a week. And that's what, like an hour if they're like a 10-minute shower. I don't know. Like you could be all crazy with the numbers here, but like I'm like, that's just one less shower.
Yeah, that's true. That's living lean right there.
Yeah, seriously. Scheduling. Yeah, because we're down to the ounce of water that I'm saving.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, there you go. That's
So
pretty good.
no, but I think that's it's I'm trying to just play around with that, but definitely been better about that. I got this one cool book that I'm reading. I don't know what it's called. I'm trying to see it from here, but it's pitch black in Washington, so I can't even see across my room. Um, but yeah, it's a good book. So
I'll take your word for it.
yeah, it's a good book. I literally started this podcast. I started this podcast with no lights on because it was light out, and now it's pitch black, so I can't even see 10 feet away. So I'm sitting in the dark right now with the glow of my computer talking to Dylan.
There
I
you
bet a
go.
bunch of you guys are jealous of me right now.
Oh man. All right.
So
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it's gone well. That's so. What day did you say you were on?
Okay.
Because you
This
restarted at one point.
so this is what I'd never told anyone, and I don't want to tell people this, but it is what it is. So you know when I came to Arizona, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I got there at like I don't even remember what time, but I did like 2 workouts. I did like everything. I got off that plane and I was chugging water to get back up to a gallon, right? Everything was good except I want you to think, I don't know if you remember all the tasks. I want you to think what the one task actually it was two. Like the two easiest tasks I forgot to do.
Take a picture of yourself.
Yep.
I don't know, drink water.
No, it was the reading.
Oh shit.
I fell asleep on the couch for like 2 hours and I was like, that technically is me sleeping, so I failed. And I was like, that was day 55.
Wow.
And I was
Oh
like,
my god.
that sucks. And so the next day, like I had some product release or something, and like Shopify, the app like glitched. And like earlier that day, it said I had this many dollars in sales, and then like 2 hours later, it said I had like $100 in sales, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like I was freaking out that day because I was like, "Man, I failed 75 hard. I feel like shit. Now my sales are down. What's going on?" And like, and thankfully, I convinced myself. I'm like, it's all right. Like you didn't like cheat on your diet. You didn't like not do a workout. You're still strong. It was just a mistake. Now, how can you improve it? And then luckily Shopify got their shit together and my sales were way higher. And I was like, okay, we're good. We're good. I'm fine. So I'm not gonna disclose what day I'm on now, but we're climbing the ladder.
Well, I think that people can do the math from the last time we talked about
Yeah.
you being in Arizona.
So we're getting there.
Yeah. Hey, it's a journey. It's more about the journey than getting to the finish line for sure.
And I mean, every time I keep messing up, it's always been the dumb things. And that's why I'm trying to be better about the dumb things, like reading right away when I wake up. Um, it's those little things that get you. And like I said, I haven't missed a workout and I've been doing this since like July. So like it's coming up on like 6 months eventually of me working out twice a day. Like regardless, my fitness level's like off the charts. So like, if anything, I'm happy about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
So
again, it's about like the journey, not
yeah.
saying you got the 75 days. Like you're feeling better, clearly. You sound better. So I mean, that's what matters.
Yeah, now I'm just pissed that I need to get there. I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, I was so close.
Well, now you're motivated. That's
Yeah,
part of it
seriously.
too, right?
Yeah.
So Adam the machinist asked, "What are dream machines?"
That's kind of. Oh, before I forget, hold on. Sorry, Adam. What did I research this week?
Oh, you want to jump? Okay, we can jump back
We're
up there.
going there.
Okay, I got that.
To be fair, this is not this week. This was like 4 weeks ago when I said I couldn't think of it, but I thought of it just now.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a number, a measurement. And I want you, it has to do with the human body. And I want you to try to guess.
Where are we going with this? I don't want to go down this path.
I want you to guess what this number has to do with, okay?
Okay.
This sounds so bad.
Yeah. I'm backing away from my microphone slowly.
Yeah, I am too, because I can't breathe right now. Okay, it's not a big number, so don't get your head in the gutters here.
I mean, okay. You're not helping what I'm thinking.
All right, the number is 17 thou. Okay, it's actually a range, 10 thou to 17 thou.
The average nail thickness?
No, I'll give you a hint. This number happens every day, according to Google, at least.
How much you grow?
Nope. You're close.
How much you shrink?
No. Has to do with the body part growing. Let's put it that way.
All right, you're gonna have to give me this one. I don't want to guess anymore.
Apparently, that's how much your hair grows a day.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know why I was thinking this. I was on a walk and I was thinking, we always say like, oh, 3,000 the thickness of a hair, blah blah blah. I'm a machinist, and I was like, whatever. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how much? I was thinking, I was like, I haven't cut my hair in a while. Like, how long does it take to grow like an inch? And I was like, I honestly don't believe that number. I feel like that's a lot, but I feel
That
like
would
everyone's
be.
different.
You said it was like 10 thou.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 10 days, that's 100 thou.
Yeah. So 20 days is a quarter inch. I think that's probably close to right.
That's probably close.
Yeah. That's
I just thought that was interesting. I was like, we all have this conceived like idea of what a thou is. Like everyone like has that idea of what a thou is. We can all talk about it. And for 10 of those a day, like, man, your hair's moving.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. I never would have thought about that.
so boom, gotcha. That's probably the only one I actually researched. So
That's a good one though. I'm happy you brought that up.
yeah.
Um, things I researched. So I did a lot of 3D printer research, like I was talking about. I'm constantly modding this thing as cheaply as I possibly can, just because it's fun.
Yep.
And then the other thing that I got turned on to today that I started looking up was a website called Backblaze, and I heard it from what's that podcast called? The Making It, I think it is. It's like Jimmy DiResta and a few other guys, but it's a cloud backup program. So you spend
Okay.
like $6 a month or $60 a year, and it backs up your entire computer to the cloud, and like it encrypts it. And then if you want a
Wait, how
copy of
much
it,
is it?
like $60 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then if you want to, you can like either download it from the web, or you can actually order a USB drive or a hard drive with all of your data on it, and like you pay $100 or whatever for the drive, and then when you return it, they refund you your money. So it's
That's not that expensive.
no, not at all, um, and it's unlimited data right now, at least. I'm sure in
Huh.
the future that might not be the case, but yeah, $60 a year, $10 a month, or not $10 a month. Sorry, $5 a month.
$5?
Yeah, $5 a month. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just having some computer problems, and I've been thinking about. I haven't done a backup in a while.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be worth. I'm thinking about it, and like I don't have most of my data is in like Google Drive anyway, but it'd be
Yeah.
kind of nice to have a full backup of my computer too,
Yeah, that's true.
and it'll
That's
back
not
up
that bad.
any attached external drive as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can back up
Nice.
terabytes on terabytes. I mean, the guys from the Making It podcast, like they have 16 terabytes of YouTube footage that they're backing up at a time.
Jeez.
So yeah, pretty crazy.
Huh.
So yeah, those are the two things I've been researching a lot.
Those are all good. All
Yeah,
right. Sorry, Adam.
yeah. So Dream Machine.
You first.
Um, so I was pretty impressed with the Hermleys that we talked about recently. And like there is a guy, Jordan Callanan, I think his name is, and he runs a Yazda and talks about it a lot in the Discord. And like looking at the Yazdas, specifically like the VI40, or Dennis has that what is it, PX40i? Like they're just so insanely precise. It sounds like the only thing that I don't really like about them is the FANUC control. But
Yeah.
like I don't know, I would suck it up for that kind of machine. And like the VI40 is sweet. Like it's there's just like a lot of really interesting looking design features about it. Like the Renishaw eye is actually built into the sheet metal around the spindle, and so it's pointing straight down, and like it's almost impossible to not be able to see it.
Huh.
um so it's a super neat machine. Like it's made for 5-axis mold making, but it's got,
Yeah.
I don't know, 30 by 40 travels or something like that.
Wow.
35, oh I'm sorry, 35 by 20 by 17. So then it's got plus and minus 110 degrees in B, So like you can get past 90 on both sides. It's just got a ton of really cool features about it. So that's either that or a Hermley. I'm not sure really which model. I'd have to look into it more, but either one of those would be like so kick ass in a job shop. Just be able to do anything super accurately.
Yeah.
What about you?
Trying to think. I don't know. Anything 5-axis automated would be cool. Um, kind of maybe not dream machine, but a cool machine to have would be. I actually talked to Adam about this. His little Mori he has. Apparently, there is a pallet pool machine of that type. Um, and it's got like 10 or 20 pallets. I can't remember how many he told me. And like, there's only like 2 or 3 of them in the world, I thought he said, or something. And
Oh,
like, and I was like, that would be such a good machine to run my molds. Higher spindle speed. Like, I could just set that thing up for like a week and it would just keep going.
that'd be badass.
So I don't know. I thought that would be kind of cool. And it's so small, it's so compact.
Yeah, totally. I can't believe how much he fits in his shop space.
Oh, I know. And for the price he paid for that Mori, oh my gosh, I would buy one of those in a heartbeat.
Yeah, totally. Data Proto asked, "How do you design your Lego and packaging artwork?"
So most of it for me, I come up with the concepts and the idea and the names of the products and all that, and then I have a designer that can do 3D renders and vector files and all that, and I just pay him to do it. Once again, offloading.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Rap Bikes asked, "If you work all day and work all night at your own shop, when do you sleep?" So I think this is probably towards me because you just work in your own shop all the time. But I mean,
Yeah.
you work also a lot. And if you do sleep, what sort of time do you start finish at your shop? How many days a week? I'm currently working at my shop on the weekends only, and after 3 years, working after a full day in my weekday evenings is getting old fast. I work long days on the weekend, but I'm curious what others do to make the side hustles work for them. So I've actually been getting a lot more sleep lately, but I still work, I don't know, at least 4 nights a week. We do the podcast one night, and I usually stay home that night unless I have something absolutely due or to ship on Wednesday. But I don't know. I'll be there. I work till 5. I'll work at the shop 5:30 till between 8 and midnight, and then sleep till 5:30 the next morning. So
Yeah.
between 7 and 3 hours of sleep a night. And then I work all of Friday, all of Saturday, and part of Sunday. I try to have Sundays off, but that doesn't always work out. So,
Yeah.
sleep when I can and grind hard the rest of the time. It's not always easy or fun or I
It's
want to
kind of
do
just
it,
what you
but
sign up for.
yeah, I just have to do it. Um, yeah, it sucks sometimes. It's super fun other times. Especially after working in a shop where I don't have full control, like going to my shop and being like, I bought all these tools. I know they're good. I bought all these tool holders. I know they're good. Like I don't have to check anything because somebody else
Yeah.
screwed something up. That's kind of like a nice, relaxing work, I guess. Um,
I would honestly be worried if I was doing what you're doing is I'd get paranoid and at your day job, you're so used to constantly double checking things, which is just a time sink, first of all. And then you go to your shop and I don't know, one way or the other, maybe you get lackadaisious and you forget to check something, or I don't know. I feel like you really just got to watch yourself.
oh, I check everything anyway.
Yeah.
The problems that happen at my day job aren't because I don't check it, it's because other people don't do their job, you know? So anything that I can control at either place, I control 100%. But
Yeah.
yeah. Um what was his name? Boss Barksatter, I think is how he pronounces it. I'm not sure though. He says talk about the new Haas machine VMT 750. So have you seen that thing?
I'm looking it up right now.
So Haas has some really weird machines lately. But
I think a microwave would sell better.
somebody in the Discord said that like
What
Haas
the?
doesn't conduct like customer surveys. They just like throw parts bin stuff together and see what sticks. And it totally seems like that's what they're doing.
What is this thing?
That's what I'm saying. It's like
What is the big bin in the front?
that's a parts catcher, I think.
Oh, sweet
Or
Jesus.
it's the vector drive for the lathe spindle.
What? This is what this
Oh no, it
this
looks like
is
a drive. I think it's the drive.
this is what you get if you this is the poor man's Mazak Milturn.
Yeah. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, I mean, just go to Haas and see it. But it is a maybe a VF5 or a VF7 that they mounted a smaller lathe spindle. It's
It doesn't look
probably
that big, does it?
I think it is that big because I want to say that
Really?
the travels were fairly big.
Huh.
Let me find the
I'm just looking at
specs.
how big the control is compared to the sheet metal.
Yeah, I think it's
It
like a
looks like a
VF5 size.
VF4.
Maybe it's a VF4. Either way,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
around that size, and they mounted a smaller lathe spindle in it, and they have the VR 5-axis head in it, and it's just bizarre. Like I don't know what the use case is for. I just don't get it. Like it comes with
This is
a
like the one job that like they got approached by and some guys like, "How can I make this?" They're like, "We'll make a whole machine just for you."
yeah, and it only comes with an HSK spindle. It comes with a 30 or 50 side mount tool changer. I'm not sure that they have any way to lock a turning tool in there though, so I'm not really sure how turning goes on. Um, it's just bizarre. But like they also just released recently, they have what's it called? A giant UMC now, a UMC 1250 as well. And then there was also the UMC 1000 Duo, I think it is, or 1500 Duo, where it's a 3-axis mill on one side and a 5-axis table on the other side, and a head that can go between the two of them.
I
Um,
don't get that at all,
it's
but
just so
whatever.
weird. It's like again, like somebody was like, "Oh yeah, they just like throw the parts bin at the wall and see what sticks." Is more or less what it is, and it really does seem like that. Like I think that the engineers at Haas just get to have a ton of fun because it seems like they have zero oversight.
I mean, whoever designed the VF2 should be like promoted out the freaking wazoo, and now they're just like, "All right, what else can we make?"
Right. Yeah, it's insane. I will say though, I think since we talked last, they had their Haas Tech demo days or whatever on YouTube,
Okay.
and I watched those, and like their integration with Fanuc robots now is really interesting.
Like good?
Yeah, like it's all built into the control, and so you can
Huh.
program it all through the Haas control and tell it waypoints, and you can use the jog pendant on the Haas control to move your robot around.
That's cool.
I was really really impressed actually with it.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a video and send it to you. If you haven't, it's on YouTube too. Like they kept all the Haas Tech days up, but it's one of the smaller Fanuc robot arms, but they have mounts for it for the ST10, ST25, all the vertical mills. They just came out with their whole line of work holding that they have like a pneumatic vise and a hydraulic vise and all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty cool that you can go to them and buy like a turnkey package to just make automated stuff. But yeah, it's man, like they're doing really cool stuff and then just freaking bizarre stuff too.
Yeah,
So
that's the best way to put it.
yeah. Let's see. Andrew from Henry Holsters asked, "How do you get psyched up to get through a project that you just don't want to do?"
What do you think?
I think it's like exercise. Like,
It's like a workout, right?
yeah, you just have to do it, especially when you don't like it. And like, well, and I've always heard like willpower is something you have to practice. And so like you just have to keep doing stuff you don't want to do and it becomes easier. Like I find that, especially after like a vacation, I don't want to do any work. Like I didn't go into the shop the entire first week that I was back from vacation because I was like, I just don't want to be there. But then like, after a week or so of midnight being there till midnight and getting no sleep, it's like super super easy for me to be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go in again and get this done. Like, I don't want to be there, but whatever, I'll just get it done. So
Yeah, you
it's
just have to.
yeah. I haven't really found any other way. Like I've not found like having a treat or something that the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't really help me. If it's like, oh, you got really good dinner, or you can sleep in tomorrow, or blah blah blah. Like none of that really seems to motivate me. It really is just comes down to just getting it done and just pushing through and grinding through. Like
Yeah.
I try not to do that when I'm like physically exhausted because I don't want to make mistakes. But if it's just the sheer fact of laziness or because it's something that's dirty or gross, like you just got to do it. It sucks, but you just got to do
Suck it up, Buttercup.
it. Well, and I think Andrew knows that
Oh yeah.
he's a you can tell he gets shit done.
Yeah.
Mr. Horrocks asked, "Who do you guys follow? Followers, listeners you interact with, hobbies outside of machining?"
I think we talked about this a while back. Someone asked who we are subscribed to on YouTube or something,
Yeah,
which was a great question. I don't know. I like listening to like or watching tech videos, like any of the new tech stuff coming out. It's always interesting to me. Um, gun stuff's cool. I've said that before. I'm not really a car person. Yeah.
yeah. I talk to like literally anybody who reaches out to us. Like a guy on Instagram, Bobby Hamilton, reached out last night or the night before, and he called me while I was at the shop, and we talked for 30 or 45 minutes or whatever. We I love talking to people who listen to the show or just other guys who are in the trade and hear different opinions of tools or their problems that they're going through or whatever. I follow pretty much most people on Instagram that are into machining. Really, like I've learned so much just from like randomly scrolling through that I'm never like, oh, I gotta follow all these people. So, and then yeah, hobbies outside of machining. I'm a big car guy, uh, motorcycles, sport bikes, all that stuff. Like I was daily riding an S1000 for the longest time. I now have an MR2 project that I daily drive. Um, I like electronics and project stuff like that. So I've 3D printers right up my alley. I've got a bunch of little electronics projects and Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and things like that. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice.
Yeah. PDM Machinists asked, he wanted to know our experiences with a shop foreman or being a shop foreman, difficulties with personality, work ethic. Is he or she a company family member? He says he's worked with many before he became one, and learned what to do and what not to do from all of them.
You go first.
So I've only worked in one shop that actually had a shop foreman. Like I've always had a boss, obviously, but like my boss right now is just the engineering manager, and then it's not really the shop foreman. And there's no real shop foreman. Like we have specialized managers for like production and inspection and things like that. But the first shop I worked at, my boss had made his longest running employee, who was a manual machinist, our shop foreman, and him and I really did not like each other. Like, well, we liked each other sort of. Like sometimes he was super nice to be around, but he was also, because he was a manual machinist in a CNC shop, was very threatened by me and very threatened by the CNC department. So he would underbid a bunch of work that would go to CNC so that we would constantly be losing money. And then he would take all of the easy jobs that could have been done way quicker on CNC and do them on a manual mill for himself. And he didn't like me because I was a young kid who would like show up late and get more done than he would in a day and then leave. And, I would be on my phone and he'd be like, oh, well, what are you doing? You shouldn't be on your phone. I'm like, I've got 4 machines running. What are you doing yelling at me? So it was part me being a young asshole and part him being an old asshole. And we butted heads because of it. And when it came down to it, I really didn't like that about him. Like he would try to sink the CNC department any chance he got because of personal ego and not because he was a company team player. But besides that, the second shop I worked at, we had like a head programmer, but he didn't really act like it. Our only boss was really the owner, and yeah, there was no shop foreman to speak of. And then, like I said, my current job, I don't have that either.
I would say, let's see, the only two machine shops I worked at, the first one being a Swiss shop, and that was, looking back on it, was more of a manufacturing plant. Like you really were just a number. Um, and like there was the owner, then there was like the manager or whatever, and then there was like the Swiss department lead or whatever. So like that was always interesting. Super cool guys, but I mean, it was, like always like, why isn't machine number 5 running? Like, get machine number 5 running, like type stuff, which was kind of interesting. And then the next shop was a lot more laid back, but I feel like I was kind of told in a weird way that, from what the owner said, he wanted me to kind of take the position of kind of like getting people in shape and like getting shit done. And like, since I was obviously the youngest, I mean, I was like 17, 18 at the time. And like all these guys, I think the youngest next to me was probably like 30. And so, and then all the way up to like 50. And there was probably 8 people in the company. And they were just like, why would we listen to Payton? We've been doing this for this long. The classic, just, not wanting to take on these new ways of doing things. And eventually I just left that company because I was just like, this is just not it for me. So, but it's just the class. It's just so interesting to me how people, not even just in machining, just in general, look down, not only just because of age, but they just totally judge people by their looks. I remember, I don't want to say the name, but a Vice company at IMTS. And you got to think, I was 18 when I went to IMTS. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I was a young asshole, but I was definitely like young and like, maybe not young and dumb, but like I was going there to get more educated. Like that was the reason I went. And I go up to this Vice company's booth, very well known company, let's just put it that way. And the
I
guys
think
were, I
people
was just,
know who was there. We know that Orange wasn't at IMTS, so
yeah,
that only leaves a few extras.
yeah. They like blue. And I go up to this guy and I was genuinely asking just about like the basic 6-inch vise. I was just asking some questions and he was totally blowing me off and like, oh, check the website. Oh, this, that, all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, you just lost like a sale right there. Cause you guys are just dicks. And they were totally judging me on like, what is this kid doing here? He doesn't have like any equipment probably, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, who are you to judge how I make my money and how much money I have? Like, that's just so poor in character, and it's just frustrating when it comes to that.
Oh, it happens in everything too. Like that's how I ended up with the motorcycle I have is because I went to so I have a BMW, but I went to the Ducati dealership and walked around there waiting for a salesman to talk to me for 15, 20 minutes. And then finally some guy came up to me all flustered and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go take my money and go buy a BMW across the road. And he was like, no, 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 no. Let's, I was like, nah, I think you're done. And like, I walked over to BMW and they're like, let's get you on a bike for a test ride. Like we'll bring you out to the track. Like, let's do all this shit. And I was like, man, you guys are awesome. I'm on board. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you, I mean, you never know who's got the money or who's got the business or anything like that. So
And it's funny, total side note, after that experience at IMTS, the next day I went up to people so confident, and this is also credit to John Grimsmo because I walked around with him and he showed me a thing or two, which was hilarious. Um, and I don't think he'd care that I share this, but like I remember he's like, "Watch this," and we go up to the Sandvik booth, and he's like, he goes up to the salesman, he's like, find me the person here that knows everything about y-axis parting, and I need to talk to that person. And the guy was like, okay, and like runs around and finds the guy. And I was like, so then the next day, like I go up to like Kennametal and all these companies, and I was like totally playing it. I'm like, I have like 2 VF2s. I didn't have a machine at the time. I'm like, I got multiple machines. Like, I need to know about face milling. What's the best face mill you guys have? And they're like, oh, okay. And it was perfect.
oh my goodness. Yeah, it really is about how, the confidence you can walk up to them with. Um, yeah. All
I
right. And
just thought
then
that was
our buddy Ty at T5 Manufacturing, I think we've talked about it before, but he just sent out our caliper holsters, his first product, the Talon. I'm super pumped to get mine. but he sent over a couple questions. iPhone versus Android. We've already talked about it. Your iPhone. I'm Android. Um, do either of you have a flex shaft deburring tool? And if so, how do you like it? I don't. I've used one at work. I want a micromotor deburring tool like Adam the Machinist has, and I've actually looked at them, and they're a little out of my price range until I have something that I need it for, like need it for. But I really want one of those. Uh, I'm assuming you don't have a flex shaft deburring tool either, right?
Nope.
They're nice though. We have them at work, and they work really well. Um, do either of you have a parts tumbler or an ultrasonic cleaner? What about? Do you have either of?
I got both.
So
I
what?
just have I think it's the Harbor Freight like 18-gallon tumbler. Works great, honestly. Um, and then I think it's also Harbor Freight, or is it Amazon? I don't know. They have a little ultrasonic cleaner that I use. It works fine.
The little Chinese one with the heater and two knobs.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, it's got a couple more. I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a tumbler. I do have two ultrasonic cleaners now. Both of them are like I don't. There's not even like a Chinese brand. They're just like the stainless steel Chinese ones with a dial for heat and a dial for time. Is the ones I have. One's a smaller one. One's a slightly bigger one now. Both of them actually work super well, so I can't complain. They're relatively cheap. I know Grimsmo just got the Crest ones, and those seem like they're awesome. Like they sound like they're significantly better than the ones I have. But for what I'm doing, cleaning aluminum parts and titanium parts, they work more than good enough for my application. Um, yeah, so I guess it depends on how much money you want to spend on them. Like the Crest ones are really good, made in America brand, whereas the one I have is maybe a third the cost and Chinese, but it also seems to work really well.
Yeah.
And then he also asked favorite type brand of work shoe.
I don't really have a work shoe, but I love Adidas Ultra Boosts.
Yeah, I don't think most people would consider that a work shoe.
Hey, it's better than a flip flop.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't wear work shoes either. I just wear, like, right now I've got some New Balance running shoes that are comfortable and work good, and I wear them until they get so black that I can't tell if they're fabric anymore, or that I wear away the sole, and then I
Yep.
buy something new. Like I have worn boots in the past, and I don't really deal with anything big enough that I'm all that worried about, like a steel toe or anything like that. I wouldn't mind like a dedicated work shoe that I could re-sole instead of buying a new shoe. That would be kind of cool, but I haven't found anything that I like yet. So that's that.
Fair enough.
And then we got one more as we were recording that I haven't written up there because we were recording. But from Beaver Tech, and he asked if we restarted in the machining game right now with no experience, how would we go about it? Like, would you start by taking college classes, or buy some machines and just start your own business? Or he says, nobody will hire somebody with no experience, but everyone says college is a waste of money. So,
Wait, is this completely starting over but knowing the knowledge we have now?
he says with no experience, how would you go about it? Like if you,
Oh, geez.
yeah. So I guess he's asking for
Uh,
himself. Like he's got, or he might have experience. I don't know. But like for someone who's just starting out, what's their best route? Do you think?
did like sees machine and they're like, this is cool. I want to check this out.
Yeah.
YouTube, just like how I started.
um, I would totally say go and find a college, like, or not a
Yeah,
college, but like a community college. Like I absolutely loved my experience there,
same.
and I didn't spend a whole bunch of money on it. It wasn't that expensive. I got a ton of experience from it. Like, and it seems like tech schools and trade schools, you really get what you put into them. So like my teacher, all of my teachers actually recognized that I knew what I was doing and that I wanted to know more, and like they took me under their wing and really taught me a lot of stuff that other students didn't get because they didn't give a shit.
Same
Um,
here. Yep.
but like also saying that nobody will hire you with no experience, I don't think is true at all. Like my first job I got before I started my first, I had taken one beginning intro class. So like I knew how to read a caliper and a micrometer and had a manual machine a little bit. And I knew nothing about CNC and nothing about Mastercam. And I walked in, like, they had a Craigslist ad for a Mastercam programmer. And I walked into the interview and was like, I don't know any of that, but I will know it. I'm going to school for it. What can you do? And they were like, well, we can start you out at almost no pay. Well, actually, I started out for the first month at zero pay and just
Yeah.
swept floors and like helped out where I could. And then they were like, okay, well, here's your, now we can give you a paycheck. And granted, not everybody can do that, but like if you reach out and like show that you really want to do this, like you might be sweeping floors and cleaning parts for a while, but like there'll be a job and they'll slowly bring you up if it's a good place.
And it's crazy just doing sweeping floors and cleaning parts, how much you can learn just from that, just looking around and paying attention.
Yeah, totally. And then like, they're short an operator one day and they're like, here, come over and learn how to press buttons. And then they're short, somebody deburring and they're like, here, come over here. We got to teach you how to deburr. You just got to be, you have to get your foot in the door, sweeping floors and doing garbage duty. And then you're a warm body. So the second that they need extra hands, they're going to reach out to the person who's there. So
Yep.
that's how to do it. But I would totally like going to school and working in a shop is the best combination, I think, because you are learning real world examples and theory all at the same time, and you're getting to apply both to each other. So like I would come to work and be like, oh, I learned this new thing in school, I want to check it out. Or I would come back from work to school and ask my teacher like, hey, I saw this today. What were they doing? Like, why would they do
Yeah.
that? So yeah, just do it.
Agreed.
All right. So last but not least, book club. We got lots to talk about.
Yeah.
So I wrote down while I was listening to it. Oh, so I was telling Peyton earlier, I usually read the books. I had never really listened to books on tape. Not a big fan. But I was way behind on the second assignment, and so I downloaded Audible and listened
The
to it.
second assignment.
Well, I mean, it is the second assignment. So
Yeah.
this was chapters 11 through 25, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what I listened to. We were like on 211, I think. 212 is where we ended. So we're on 26 now, which at the time I hadn't read the book in a while. I didn't realize like what a cliffhanger we were leaving people on. So I feel kind of bad, but real quick, we'll run down. I'm going to run through what my little 2-sentence synopsis of each chapter. So we know we're all chapter 11, Alex goes to New York to meet Jonah. They talk about a balanced plant myth and how is idle work actually counterproductive. And they also talk about dependent events and statistical variation. Chapter 12 was just making up with Julie and agreeing to work from home at night. Chapter 13, he goes on the scout trip and Herbie slowly shows himself to be a constraint. He has the walking analogy to dependent events and statistical anomalies. Dependency limits the opportunity for fluctuation. Realization that he could use the troop as a simulation for the manufacturing plant. Chapter 4 is the dice match game, where again he's trying to figure out how to deal with constraints. So the dice match game, every troop boy had a bull. He rolled a 6-sided dice, and he could only move the certain number of matches that he rolled from his bull to the next bull, and they were trying to get 3.5 matches per turn out, and whoever got lower than that had to wash extra dishes, and whoever got above that didn't have to wash dishes, and everybody had to wash dishes. So 15, he realized that Herbie is the constraint and what that means for throughput. There's a terrible milestone reference where he's like, oh, there's a milestone, and it was like, geez, is that like the worst foreshadowing ever? Maybe, yes. And then he, at the end of that chapter, puts Herbie in the front and gets everybody to walk together because Herbie, the constraint, is now in the front of the line. Chapter 16 was all about Julie being gone. Chapter 17, he explains the constraint concept to his team, and Hilton calls him and rushes an order. Chapter 18 is the search for the Herbie in the plant. So systems are composed of bottlenecks and non-bottlenecks. The NC10 or NCX10 and the heat treat oven are discovered to be their bottlenecks. And bottlenecks were found by using imperfect data. Like they couldn't just use the data to find the bottlenecks because they didn't have all the data that they needed. So they just looked for stacks of work in front of machines, and like whatever machines or departments had the most stacks of work were clearly the bottlenecks. Chapter 19, Jonah visits and analyzes the bottlenecks. Scrap at a bottleneck or after a bottleneck is much more than just the scrap rate normally, because it's scrapping the thing holding up the entire plant. So capacity of the plant is equal to the capacity of the bottleneck is equal to the capacity of the plant. Hours lost at a bottleneck is a loss for the whole system and needs to be charged as such. So like whatever your operating costs for the day are divided by how many hours you're working, that is what 1 hour at a bottleneck costs you, not just what that machine costs you.
That
Uh,
took me a second to kind of wrap my head around what they were saying, but it makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if that is your capacity, then that is exactly your rate. So like scrap at a bottleneck means that you've lost that hour or whatever that rework costs for the entire plant, because that's what's holding you up.
Yeah, like
Um,
if I have an 8-hour day to machine, but my machine can only, for whatever reason, machine for 6 hours, well, it's 6 hours, not eight.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Chapter 19, no, no, sorry. Chapter 20, they develop an action plan to lighten the loads on the bottlenecks. Chapter 21, priority list was developed for the bottlenecks. They fought with the union because the union didn't want to play ball as far as having shifting and breaks that didn't exactly align to the clock. The plan starts falling apart because of missing material, and they realized the question, is staying busy the goal or is it making parts? They needed a system to communicate to the plant what is a bottleneck part, and that's where they come up with the red green tag system. And they tell everybody to work on only red tags unless they to drop everything and work on a red tag. 22, the bottleneck plan is starting to work, but not as fast as anticipated. The plan is to add gold tape to parts already through the bottleneck so they know to continue to work on them. They bought back old machinery to increase the bottleneck capacity or offload from the bottleneck. Chapter 23, they have heat treat issues. They're trying to figure out why parts sit in heat treat and why Ralph's numbers were off. The NCX 10 idle time is also discovered as a bottleneck, and that like if it stops in the middle of the day and nobody's around, that they're wasting bottleneck time, which is again entire plant time. So they realize that they need to schedule people to permanently be stationed at the NCX and the heat treat oven so that they are constantly running. Attempts to make a machine faster added so that was the other interesting thing, is that they had, in an attempt to offload work or to speed up work on non-bottleneck machines, were taking deeper cuts that required the parts to be reheat treated. That wasn't from engineering, it was from machining. And so they were giving more work to their bottleneck when they didn't need to. And so they backed off their cutting parameters on those machines so that they may take more time, but they were not feeding more work to the bottlenecks.
That kind of, I was reading that and I was like, wow, this is actually a little relatable now. I can like understand this.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's something that I've seen before too. I mean, not that exact thing, but like,
It's kind of like hard milling versus not.
right, exactly. Or like milling a bow into a part because you put so much stress into it, and then you have to anneal it. Like I've done that in brass before, where it's like, oh, I didn't realize how much this material bows, and then like now I've got to add a whole nother operation.
Yep.
24, Bill Peach calls to thank Alex. They do a big celebration on a great month. Julie thinks Alex is cheating. New bottlenecks appear in the plant. Chapter 25, Jonah comes back to the plant to find out what's going on. You can only use the market demand worth of a part of the system. So like even if the parts don't go through a bottleneck, you can only run that machine as much as the market says you can, pretty much. Like it would be like you making, instead of 60,000 hats, if you made 200,000 hats and you were just sitting
Yeah.
on like a ton of inventory and killing your bottom line.
Yeah.
So otherwise you have excess finished goods. And then he also brings up the four equations of processing parts. So whether, Y feeds X, X feeds Y and X both feed assembly, or Y and X both make independent parts. He talks about how each one of those is still constrained by the bottlenecks or by the market demand. And that's where we ended off on this one. So let's talk about bottlenecks.
They are real.
What do you think your bottleneck is?
In my company,
Mm-hmm.
probably my time.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's 100% what mine is too. Because I was like, there was that whole part talking about how they bought back old machinery, and I was like, oh man, and I'm selling old machinery. Like, should I be doing
Uh-huh.
that? But it's like the bottleneck is not machines running at this point. I have two machines that run, and they both don't run all the time. It is
It's
100%.
time
Yeah,
delegation.
it's me and Brad and how much we can set up and run each day. So until I go full time and those machines are running nonstop, like that is the only bottleneck I can really focus on.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly why I had my buddy make those parts so I could keep working on other things. Otherwise, I'd be a week behind and that would have been a week that I wouldn't be selling new stuff.
Totally.
So, yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, as far as bottlenecks go, I mean, you could dive deeper and say like what exactly like machines and stuff, but like you said, like I have a mill and I have a UV printer and I've got this, that, and this, and they're never always running. So,
Yeah. Well, and like we had a few questions on the with Intolerance Discord about that. So like Mike asked, do job shops have bottlenecks in production similar to large production facilities? Um, let's see where else. Oh, so Lowry Racing was talking, he was saying, oh, this book really makes him want a consultant. He wished that he could have a weekly or monthly conversation with somebody as intelligent as Jonah. And then he found it surprisingly unrealistic that the team in the book buys into these changes with so little pushback. Um, and then, do you guys intentionally do anything to make your own small teams work better together, whether it's your business partner, friends who help you out part time, or your employees? Do you do anything to try to build team morale? Um, so, yeah, let's answer those. Do job shops have bottlenecks in production similar to larger production facilities?
of course.
Totally. I think that a lot of job shops, the bottleneck is time and people resources more than machine resources.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can have a bunch of machines sitting around. It's we're waiting on tools, we're waiting on material. Oh no, we don't have enough operators for the day or whatever. We don't have a night shift.
Right. Well, and like for smaller shops like you or I, or even like 5 or 10 people shops, people wear a lot of hats. So like your assembler might also be your head programmer or
Yep.
your operator. And so it's like, oh, the parts are done on that machine on this machine and need to be assembled, but like he also needs to be running that machine. And so that's a constraint, and like you can overcome that by either creating, going back to the e-myth, like creating procedures so that you can hire on a person to do assembly, or you just have to like accept that
Eliminate,
that's a
automate, or
bottleneck.
delegate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean for us that's hard because I mean you're a two-person shop, I'm a one-person shop. It's like you can only do so much.
Yeah, but I mean we're both learning how to automate and delegate. Like you're
Yeah.
not packing orders anymore, easy runs, or you're pushing off to friends or whatever, cousins or whatever that can come over. um I'm learning to delegate a lot more to Brad and like really know when to ask for help, and that's a big thing for me. Um, so yeah, I think that there are ways around it. It's just, but it's harder with our bottlenecks, I think, than like it's not a scheduling issue, or at least not as often.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is like we could schedule jobs better so that longer running jobs run while you're deburring other parts. Um, but and in a quick turn scenario, like if I've got 2 weeks to do all these orders, there's not much I can do about scheduling. It's like I just got to brute force it.
Yeah.
As far as morale building or team building, do you do anything like that?
Uh
Take yourself
be
out to a
nice to
nice
my
dinner.
mom. That's about it. I mean, it's kind of like you said, like, I can't, it's hard for me to be like, all right, Peyton, if you get this job done, go spend $50 on that cool hoodie that you've always wanted, or go get food, or whatever it might be. Like, that just doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
Like you said, like I don't know what it is, but like I could get the job done and think of that, and then I'll be like, I don't want it. Like it just I don't need that. I just want the job done. That's all I care about.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. As far as team building, Brad and I, we got to lunch weekly and just kind of, I don't know, talk about life and then also talk about business and like where we're moving towards. We do like, uh, we go to like the driving range occasionally. We go,
That's
we'll
cool.
do team building stuff. Like the decision to buy the Speedio was done at a driving range. Like we were like, oh, let's
Yeah.
go have a fun morning and like talk about this. And like we went there and we were there for a couple hours, um, just like shooting the shit, both literally and
Smacking
figuratively.
balls.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, we try to do stuff like that because it's important. Like we're both friends anyway, and so we want to
Kind
just
of
hang
doubles.
out, and then we also want to you know uh, get stuff done and communicate well. Oh, it was a top
Yeah.
golf, so like it was extra gamey too.
Oh yeah.
But
I went to one of those in Arizona first time. That was cool.
dude, it's a blast. Like
Yeah.
if you have a top golf near you, even if you don't like golf, it's a ton of fun.
I was surprised how I mean, I think it was like 200 yards for me was my max, and I was like, I feel like that's not bad.
No, not at all. Um, yeah, so I definitely think like doing team building exercises helps, and like just encouraging during those team building or lunch or whatever, just being super open and honest about like anything that's bothering you or like the direction you want to take the company in, or like I very much, Brad is very down to earth, I'm very much head in the clouds, and like I'm always dreaming of like what our next big move is, and we kind of balance each other out really well that way. Not that like Brad's at all a stick in the mud, and actually we've kind of rubbed off on each other where I'm much more reserved than I used to be, and he's much more like, oh, I don't care, let's just get it done, let's do this. But like I'm always like, oh, in 5 years this is where I want to be, this is like what I want to do with the company, and so those are the times that like it's very easy to bring those things up because you're not like grinding through an order on the weekend, you're having fun hitting golf balls.
Yeah.
Um, he also mentioned that he thought it was unrealistic that the team in the book buys into the changes with so little pushback. On one hand, I totally agree because like we've done a lot of overhaul at my day job. Like we bought a CNC tool setter and a new CMM, and like people were so hesitant to trust it at first. Um, but I think it's a lot easier. Well, they have to buy into it because it's a book and it needs to move forward. They don't have 400 pages to be like, well, people hemmed and hawed for 6 months. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, and
also,
to be fair, they did have a timeline of that 3 months, right?
right, yeah, exactly. That, and also because the change was spurred on from the head of the organization, I think it's a lot like we're only seeing it from Alex's point of view. So whether or not they trusted or cared or thought this was the correct way forward, they didn't have a choice because he had the power to fire him. So I think that that's also something to take into account, is like the entire management team was like, you will do this, period.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's I thought it was a bunch of really good chapters. Like it really fleshed out more the idea of the book. The big thing is like scrap going into your scrap or wasting time at your bottleneck is where you can't have any leeway. Like you have to make sure that whatever your bottleneck is, and it's a lot harder when it is time is your bottleneck, but like you have to make sure that in our cases, we have to make sure that we're not wasting time while we're at the shop is what it comes down
Yeah.
to. Like I the big thing for me is like I need to ignore social media and texts and like family stuff as much as I can. Like, I mean, obviously, if somebody texts me from my family, like I need to respond usually. But if it's something I can put off, I need to 100% focus my mind to what I'm doing at the shop and make sure that I optimize that time. Like, that's
I'm
why we,
telling you, put your phone on airplane mode. It works.
yeah. Oh, I've been leaving it on my desk, and then like my desk is completely across the room too. And
Yeah.
I don't hear it like between the machines and the compressor and stuff. So something like that, it really, really helps. Nothing is as urgent as you think it is usually, and it's super super like when time is your only constraint, you have to 100% optimize it. Like that's why we bought the orange palette system or the orange subplate. That's why we bought a machine with probing, all that stuff. It's like 100% as much optimization as I can.
Yeah.
And in talking about the chapters, let's see what else stood out.
One thing that stood out to me that I liked is how he's starting. And to be fair, I did finish the book, so this does happen later on in the book too. But how he, like, the hiking scenario, um, he does this, like I said, later in the book, but he breaks down these complicated problems to really bare bones, and then he asks people that have no idea what the actual problem is and asks for their input. And I want to start doing that with some of my problems. You know,
Yeah,
could I ask just one of my friends that has no idea about machining, but like reword it so it's not like talking about machining so he doesn't get confused, but ask him a scenario and see what he thinks.
yeah. I liked when he talked to his kids. I think that is actually the next chapter, maybe. Like I said, I was listening to it and I got a little ahead. Uh, but he like asks his kids for help. Maybe that was it. And anyway, he asked for his kids for help determining the the way to have the bottlenecks rein in the rest of the production. And
Yeah.
like his son brings up like, oh, a drummer, and or no, his daughter brings up like, oh, use a drummer, to like, so everybody hears the beat. And then his son was like, tie the bottlenecks to everybody else so that they can't
Yeah.
go faster. And like he was able to use those as jumping off points to create actual change in his organization. And I agree. I think it goes along the lines of like if you can teach something, you really know it. And so like I think if you can simplify something, you really understand the problem. And sometimes in even just in simplifying something, you really learn what you're worried about. You're like, oh, now that I've broken it down like that, I totally see the way forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Um and yeah, I can't really think of another bottleneck in my organization right now. Like we quote pretty quickly. We respond to like customer demand pretty quickly.
It's
Um,
kind of just like time is the overarching bottleneck, I feel like, for everyone, and then it's for like us, like for example, like for you quoting, like, yeah, it might be fast, but how can I make it a little faster? And then you start going down these rabbit holes.
Yeah. I'd actually really like to work on my quoting spreadsheet. I've given it out to a few people, but like I'd love to have drop downs for materials and then like common square footage prices or cube footage prices, or cubic inches prices, and then I could just put in the dimensions of the stock and how many, and then have it spit out a estimate already. Like rather than me having to do all that math, it'd be nice if I could just like say, oh, it's 6061, it's 2x4x6, and I need 5 pieces of it. And it would just be like, here's your quote, or here's your rough quote for material.
Yeah.
So I need to do that. And it really isn't that hard. Like I've done a whole bunch of really deep Excel stuff in the past. So I'll get that done sometime soon. And then programming wise, I need to get my templates sorted, especially now that Fusion has its own template manager that popped up in the most recent update. I can really like with the new tool library and templates, I can really revolutionize my programming. Like the whole reason we bought that orange thing was so that I didn't have to probe manually, and I just haven't had time to set it up yet, and so I need to get that done.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I think that kind of takes care of book club for this week. Should we just finish off the book for the last assignment? I mean, you're
Yeah.
already done, I'm on my way. I think everybody's ready to like everybody seems to really like the book. So what do you guys say? We'll just finish out the book and we'll talk about it next time. Definitely head over to our Discord and chat in the chat there. Like as you heard, I'm looking through all your comments. I'm responding to some of them, and we'll definitely talk about them. Like it's awesome to talk with you guys more quickly than like once a week when I ask you guys for questions.
Yeah.
I definitely think a consultant is super helpful. Like I've got both our accountant now that I can consult on some stuff, and then I got two business consultants, sort of. Like, one of my good friends owns a manufacturing company in Chicago, and I talk to him once or twice a week. Less so now that he just had a kid. Um, but like, we talk about stuff, and like, he has that outside perspective that where he doesn't machine parts, but they make parts, and so like, we talk about more overarching business things, and he pushes me to do things in my business that I normally wouldn't do because he's got more of a business background than I do. And then one of my old neighbors, I haven't seen him in actually 6 months or a year since all this COVID stuff started, but he is a business consultant, and like, we used to meet once every 6 months or so and just catch up, and I'd tell him where we're at, and he'd, kind of push me towards the way that I should start thinking about in business, or things that investors might want to look at in the future. And he was really helpful to talk to as well. So if you can find a mentor or a consultant like that, I definitely reach out to somebody like that.
Yeah, 100%.
But that pretty much does it for tonight.
And then next week, right, we have Robin Renzetti.
Yeah, we've got Robin on, the illegal operation man himself.
So yeah,
So
we'll
we'll
be taking questions probably this weekend or something.
yeah, I'll post it up a little earlier than normal because I'm sure there are a lot of questions for him. I know I've got a lot of questions for him. He's man, watching his most recent video on building those high accuracy spindles was just insane. It was super cool.
Yeah.
And then oh, the other thing that I saw recently that they brought up on the Precision Microcast, Adam and Josh's podcast, is there's a story about the indexer that Adam has, and it's on Practical Machinist, and it's the Newbold indexer. And if you haven't read
Uh-huh.
it, it is super interesting. Like, this guy designed I think it's called a simple mechanism. It was like one of two simple mechanisms designed in the 20th century. Um, and it's like super interesting, him going to like stare at and all these companies and trying to sell it, and um, talking about getting it in the Smithsonian, and like just all the business mistakes he made, and all of it's super worth watching. They talk about it on the Precision Microcast, so go listen to that, their most recent episode, and then also head over to Practical Machinist and just search Newbold Indexer. I think it's like, I can't remember what the title of the post is, but it's a bunch of pages, and he like continually adds more and more tidbits of the story. Like, talking about, I think he went to Brown and Sharp at one point and talked to, people from Brown and Sharp, or maybe it was Starrett, and it's very, very interesting. So definitely go listen to that and read up on that. And yeah, next week we'll have Robin on, and it'll be awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.